December 2nd. Any changes, additional situations? All in favor of those two, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Anything anybody want the board to bring up? If not,
I would just quickly like to remind everyone that tomorrow will be Mayor Longwell's last official meeting as mayor. The transition will happen Monday night, 13th, swearing in the new mayor, and council members that were re-elected, which includes myself, Councilmember Tuttle, and Councilmember Zula. And then Mayor Whipple will start on the 14th. So tomorrow's Mayor Longwell's last day is officially starting a meeting, so we get a chance to say hi, pass him out. Appreciate it. For the last 4 years, the city's done some tremendous things under his leadership. I'm grateful for it, and I hope the rest of Wichita will be as well in hindsight. So that's the main thing I want to share with everyone. If you have any questions for me, though, we've got a couple of things we've had on the agenda the last couple of weeks, part of the last month. Some big happenings with the stadium and the surrounding development at the stadium, with Layhan and his partners announced their intention with the church property. So a lot of exciting things happening, but that's a lot of questions. Some confusion in the media on tips and CIDs and et cetera. And I'm happy to answer any of those. Tracy jumped on Facebook a couple of times, and I appreciate that. But it can get a little confusing with all the acronyms and abbreviations. Basically, what has been proposed is to put a community improvement district, CID, which is up to 2% additional sales tax on the stadium funds to help pay for the stadium. Originally, we were going to do a AA stadium that was around $48 million. When we got the good news that we're doing a AAA, that required us to do additional stadium investment, more facilities, and so that upped the price. And so, one couple of things that we've done is the proposed CID, and then expansion of the TIF district. So, a CID is only a sales tax increase on those properties within that district. Since the city owns all of those properties within that district, it doesn't affect any of the existing Delano restaurants or retail. The only property that would currently be affected would be the ice center. So there would be a 2% increase on sales taxes there, but that money is going to be captured for the stadium. This TIF expansion is to enlarge the district around Delano, primarily the stadium and then Douglas frontage, all the way to Vine, which is about where Shamrock is. You know where Shamrock is. Trey, and then the north and south along Seneca down to Kellogg to Clay. So a TIF takes the base property tax level of 2019, and any increases in property value, that tax revenue is captured for improvements within that district. So we'll be able to use that money to pay for street enhancements, parking solutions, a bike pedestrian path, maybe a clock tower on the west side, as you may know, like we have at Clinton and Signal. So that money would be used to make improvements throughout the Delano area, as well as stadium improvements. So we're not taxing the entire district, we're not increasing property taxes. It's the CID is for a very specific area. That money is captured for the stadium, and the TIF is only the increase in property tax value that is realized from the base level of 2019 to for a certain period of time. For a certain period of time, correct. Yeah. the CID is a max of 22 years, and with TIF, I think it's 20. I have to go back and read it again, but yes. So, a lot of confusion, a lot of acronyms and everything, a lot of misinformation. But we're not doing a blanket-wide tax increase. We're not doing a property tax increase. It's very specific use and very targeted. Again, we're happy to answer any questions on it. That's really what's been happening last month. Those two big picture things. So, at the end of the day, it's going to make for better infrastructure, better parking solutions, better stadium, etc. Yes.
Do either of those that you just mentioned address the West Bank and there was a CID from the West Bank going over into the water walk area?
So that is the CID, that's the stadium.
That's the
right?
same CID.
Right.
Okay.
And so there are two parcels on the east bank. One is water walk, not including Gander Mountain, or the water walk apartments, condos that are there now. It includes boathouse and all the vacant land. And so anything that's built on any of that would be subject to that CID, as well as the north of the Drury vacant lot at First and Waco. Now, that lot is currently a development agreement with Lou Schwettheimer, the baseball owner, who has the option to purchase that lot for $1 million and develop one. And if he did, it would be subject to that CID. The water walk space, again, is the vacant land, including where Jack Moore wants to build his new building, and he's agreed to that CID. Where I have heartburn is the boathouse, because I believe that, I think it's been suggested many times in the community, that the boathouse site, as well as Gander Mountain, would be a good place for a performing arts center. And that is ultimately the decision of the community to put a performing arts center there. I would hate for any sales tax revenue that was collected on that building purpose to be used for the stadium across the river. I'd like to see that revenue captured for that specific use. So we can amend the CID to have that allowance, but one of the challenges we're up against is getting the CID in place in time to start collecting revenue for the first game. And because the CID is a state financing tool, it has to get approved by them, and revenue has to get all. So there's a lot of mechanics that has to get done in order for us to start collecting tax revenue on that first game. So that's why we're going to, the motion is to approve it and then amend that district to allow that parcel to be used for other purposes, in essence, a performing arts center. So, and I think majority of the council agrees with that as well. So keeping East Bank revenue for East Bank purposes, West Bank revenue for West Bank purposes. So, and again, we're looking several years before performing arts center is even design, build, etc. So,
I knew you had some.
Yeah,
that's what I was trying to.
yeah, and I've been on record as that back when it first came to us, and I'll speak again tomorrow. And again, so the boathouse revenue over 22 years at its current rate is $34,000 a year. So it's not a lot of revenue that we're talking about. But Bob Lake, city manager, is being extremely conservative with all the financial projections for the stadium and revenue sources. And he wants to make sure they're not caught short. And so he's trying to find everything possible. At the end of the day, I think between what Layham's group is wanting to do, what we're going to develop around the state, there's going to be more than that. But he's doing his job and being very fiscal conservative and protective of the budget. So that's why it's there for now. Okay. Pretty thorough, but I hope that answered your questions.
You tour of the baseball stadium?
Yes, we still need to do that, don't we? Oh, maybe not. Great, I'll wait for you.
Okay, we'll begin with the staff reports, starting with the fire department.
Chief, also Fire Department. In District 5, we had, over the last month, we had 11 fire alarms, 27 service alarms, 235 medical alarms. We had $170,000 loss at 350 South Socorro, and then we had 40,000 loss at 8 Central.
House fires.
House fires. Yep. What else is going on in the fire department? We have a recruit class that is about complete in February. There'll be 12 individuals graduating again that month. And then also something we just recently added was last maybe 10 to 15 years, we have had a forcible entry tool to get into vehicles. If you have a little one, a kid or a dog walks in your vehicle, we had those tools taken away because it has damage to vehicles that were happening at the time. We just kind of had some rough, either a hanger or this and that. Now they make tools for doing that. We have some training videos that's getting disseminated to all crews along with that tool to get in the vehicle. So that's something that would probably be a little bit new to some people. If you end up locking your keys in the car and you have your baby in the back seat, you don't use that. If you don't have a person inside, then you have to call a locksmith still, just like that. So,
I'm curious how many calls the fire department gets regarding infants or animals locked in a vehicle.
I don't have the exact number, but more than you would imagine, because actually, a lot of people actually call for that without somebody being in the vehicle. They always want us to come unlock their car, and that was the other reason for getting away from it, because we might get the car unlocked, and then they might give us an insurance claim for damage to the vehicle.
Rough estimate as far as number of calls versus actual emergencies.
I don't know if I have the rough. I know that when we looked into getting the tool, like what Maze and some other agencies, Maze, this PD still has that. They still have a tool to get into vehicles. Actually, some people end up being smart and call Maze. If you get their car unlocked instead of a locksmith. But you could get hundreds of calls a month for people that lock cars.
And claiming that there's somebody. Or something.
Well, they just say general information. Yeah, my kids are different. Okay, if someone in distress, well, someone in distress is, they need to get somebody. They need to get someone. Thank you. It is a good tool for us to have. Once again, I guess what we were doing in the past, when they took that tool away, we just break the glass and get inside. We have to get the individual. If it's too hot or too cold, so we just get the infant or any questions? I'll be back up here a little bit.
Thank you. Get back. Please report.
We get a lot more of those calls in the summer months than we do in the winter months. I'm Officer Hott, representing Patrol West. We're talking about 199B, 19B, and 16B, and I currently have 199 and 16B. So really what we're looking at is end of year numbers. And just really quick, 16B, 13% down on Part 1 crimes, it's violent crimes and property crimes. The numbers on that are 536 versus 617 for the year. 3-year trend total, 18% down, 536 versus 656. That's good. 19B, 1% up from the year prior, and that's 789 incidents versus 784. For a 3-year trend, it's up 8%, 789 versus 730. And 199B total Part 1 property crimes down 21%, 513 versus 651. 3-year trend on that, 14% down, 513 versus 597. So 19B, probably some of that is attributed to just population increase on that B. That and the increased popularity of 21st May, so imagine. Other things that are going on in Patrol West, on December 18th, we had an auto theft foreman assignment. We normally do these a couple times during the winter. That's where we go out, normally with auto theft detectives early in the morning, 6 o'clock or so, when folks are warming up their cars, getting ready to go to work. And we're looking for unattended vehicles. We found, actually I think we found a few more than this, but we handed out 103 flyers in about 2 hours on West Bureau. Most of this was west of Ridge Road and or around Central Ridge, the apartment complexes in that area. We responded to 1 suspicious character and 1 suspicious vehicle, and wrote 2 parking tickets as well on that assignment. So that gives you kind of an idea as to how many cars are out here actually being warmed up on any. That was a good morning to do it too, because we had frost, and it was easy to see the exhaust coming from the cars. And then in late December, in response to package thefts, we did a force fire assignment. I think about 3 or 4 different days, where we were falling around or sitting off in locations on the west side looking for suspected force fires. So we were not successful as far as I know in catching anything. Penny, any questions you have? That's all I have.
Do you guys have an increase in cars being egged during the holidays?
Not that I heard. I normally don't cover or I normally don't monitor vandalisms per se. So, I mean, it's possible. I saw some.
I saw Highland Springs got hit.
Okay, yeah, I've seen some out here out west, but I can't tell you if there's been an increase or not. I just don't know.
Has there been an increase in, I'm on this like neighborhood watch email? There seems like there's been a lot of people talking about someone's like walking the streets and checking cars that are, and then they'll say that they
Is it the next door app? Is that what you're on?
yeah. And,
I see them too.
okay. And it just seems like there's a lot of activity of, cars, yes, they should be locked, but it just seems like there's a lot of activity of people.
Well, I think that there's probably not any more activity. There's just a lot more talk.
Okay.
Because we have these mechanisms now to talk to each other.
Okay.
Social media being a good thing in this instance. So I don't think there's probably any more. It's just a matter that everybody's talking about, which is a good thing. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave? Next.
Yeah, State of Environment, Park and Recreation. So I put a new brochure in front of you there to look at the many classes that you can sign up for. One thing I'd like to point out, go to page 16 and 17. I don't know how many of you guys knew that Lynette Woodard Recreation Center actually has a boxing ring, and you can talk boxing. You can look at that picture of that little girl getting ready to get a boxing glove on there. That's pretty cute. And we also put a climbing wall up there in Lynette Woodard, so they've got a couple of things going on up there. But this brochure is just full of classes and things coming up here during the spring. Of course, it's time to get started signing up for softball and men's golf league. It's time to sign up for it already. We've got kickball leagues that are going to be kicking off here this spring. Underneath there, the Great Plains Nature Center is going to be hosting a moon-lit walk right over there at Swanson Park here, January 9th and 10th. So if you want to go for a moonlight walk, it's going to be right in our neighborhood, right over here, so you can go there. They've got a couple of the naturalists that are going to be talking about things that you might see in the evening. And with the full moon, you should be able to walk the trail just fine. Now, however, there is some construction on one of the trails over here that you got to be careful of. So, then We also have, of course, spring break camps for kids when they're going to be out of school here in March. We'll have quite a few of those and a lot of fun activities for them to do while they're out of school. Not too many park projects to talk about. We're getting ready to rebid our mowing. It's going to be coming out pretty soon. So not too much to talk about there. So any questions or comments?
I have one, and I've got a couple of emails complimenting City Park Department for doing the menorah.
Right.
I think you were involved with that.
Yep.
It was a lighted display. Was it Century 2 or was it put at?
It was out from Century 2 there. Hey, Chrysler Park.
Okay. But they also asked about, is there a nativity scene that we have?
No, we do not have one.
Okay, so if they wanted to reach out to you about doing something similar like they did with the menorah, you'd be the contact?
They can contact me, yes. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Any other questions? All right.
Thank you. Okay, Tracy? Look at this.
Okay, my name is Tracy Partridge. I'm the manager of the Westlake Branch Library, and always I'm really glad to be here. The first and most important thing is we are actually going to have all of our library locations closed on January 20th, so don't come expecting anybody to be there. We will not be there, okay? However, even when we're closed, we provide services. So you will still be able to check out your ebooks and still be able to use our databases during that time. Now, the next thing that I want to mention, and it is incredibly important to me because I am all about the reading, is our Winter Reading Challenge, and that is the month of January. We want as many people as possible to read 2 books. We do not care what you read, we just want you to read 2 books. And we have an app called Beanstack, and then also it's available on our website, again called Beanstack, where you can record your reading. And the reason that we want you to do this is obviously reading is an awesome thing, and we can learn a lot through it, but it's also because we are competing against other libraries across the nation. And the goal is actually to get books donated to us from a publisher, as well as potentially author visits. And even though I can read a lot, I cannot actually compete against all those other libraries, which is why I need you all to read and then actually let everyone know to do it as well. So that's the first thing. The next thing that I want to mention is the 2020 hashtag ReadICT Challenge. And last year, some of you did let me know that you participated, and the rest of you, I know that you participated, you just didn't let me know. But we started that on December 29th. And that's actually when Suzanne Tobias with the Wichita Eagle released the 12 different categories that we have for 2020. I gave each one of you a bookmark indicating what that is. I have some bookmarks back on the table. But basically, that's an attempt to encourage us to stretch ourselves, which is never a bad thing. And some of the things that like you can read are a book with a number in the title, or a really short read. And all of those things are awesome. But we're trying to read 12 different books in 12 different categories throughout 2020. So some other things that I want to mention are some actual activities, not just our reading initiatives. The Wichita Public Library has been hosting the Academy Award Shorts for 34 years now. And in preparation for that, we're doing a program on January 8th at 1:30 at the Advanced Learning Library, where Hugo Fan with KMUW will come in and talk about the history of the Academy Awards. And that is part of our Senior Wednesday series, but you do not have to be a senior to actually go and enjoy if you are actually available at 1:30 on January 8th. Now on January 12th at 2:30, so that's this Sunday at the Westlake Branch Library, we are doing a program called Tasting the Past, Exploring Kansas Food Memories. That is a program by Humanities Kansas. It's co-sponsored by Humanities Kansas. But Louise Hanson, who is a librarian and a researcher about cookbooks, is going to share some of the food traditions for different ethnic populations around Kansas. So that's going to be really cool, and that's at Westlake. Anybody here have anybody who loves Harry Potter in their family? Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Jill. Okay, so if you have somebody in your family who actually loves Harry Potter and they are 8 years old or older, they can participate in our semester at Hogwarts. We're actually starting that January 19th at 2:30 at the Westland Branch. And basically what we're going to do is one Sunday a month through May, we are going to do Harry Potter related class. So we're going to have a potions class. We're also going to have a horticulture class, all sorts of different fun things related to the Harry Potter books. And then the final thing that I want to mention is also kind of a family-related program at Westlake. It's called Art is the Game. And the point of this activity is for families with children ages 4 and up. It's on January 23rd at 6:30 at Westlake again. But it's for families to work together to actually paint something. And basically what we're going to have is like a little wheel that you will spin, and it will tell you what you have to do to your canvas, okay? But it's like families working on a painting together and just enjoying time together. Because we're all about fun, hopefully, at the library. And so those are just a few of the things that we're doing. I believe that I have passed this out before, and I do have some extras in case you gentlemen need one of these very badly. So you can come to every Westland program there is. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
How was your Harry Potter escape room?
Say that one more time.
How was your Harry Potter escape
That is
room?
an excellent question. We didn't actually host it at Westlake, and so I did not look at it. But what I can do is I can let you know. I can go back to the library tomorrow and let you know. We did a program called Snowed In at Westlake, and we had over 30 kids and teenagers make slime and participate in winter relay races and snowflakes that drink lots and lots of hot cocoa. That's what we did. Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. That's it. Public Works, Gary.
Gary Jansen, City Engineer. Thanks for allowing me to be here tonight. So I've got our pretty normal project list to go to, and I also gave everybody a handout tonight to talk about the 2020 Outsourced Pavement Preservation Program, which I'll get to in just a minute. So I might start with what's left to be completed on the 2019 program. Just as a reminder, this is annual funding within our capital improvement program, as well as part of our operating budget, around $10 million a year for pavement preservation work across the city. We've got a 40-year model that takes into account the current condition of all 5,100 lane miles we have across the city in every single district, and based on the funding, it looks at an optimized program to get the best return on investment. We've made a lot of changes since 2013, a lot of pilot projects, different types of treatments we use, and that's working really well for us to extend the dollar to get a lot more return on what we are investing compared to what we used to. I think it's working pretty well. I think we have found a really good spot to be on those improvements. We get a lot of input still from the public. Sometimes it takes some education to understand exactly what it is that we are doing, but I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. We have some microsurfacing of residential streets from the 2019 program, and that's included on the list that you previously have seen. It can be accessed on our website. That'll be completed in the second quarter of 2020. We had done some pavement prep work on Central from Mays Road to half mile west, and the same on Tyler from Bangle to Second. Both of those will receive a new surface asphalt overlay this spring, and that'll wrap up most of the 2019 program. As part of that, we also did some sidewalk work on 13th Street from Ridge Road east to Schooler. Those sidewalk requests or sidewalk projects are primarily based on requests from the public. We have funding each year to install new sidewalk on arterial streets. We also work with the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Board on recommendations they might have. As part of that same program, we built sidewalk on the east side of Ridge from 29th Street north up to the Cloisters. You saw where we added some curb along the outside of the lane there, and that work's all done now. I think both of those turned out pretty well.
So, moving on to the 2020 program. I gave you several things here I'll talk about real quick. One of them is a map that shows work citywide. There's a lot of colors, a lot of lines on this, a lot of projects across the city in every single district, and it's got a legend that goes with that. You see quite a bit of black and orange on there, which is crack sealing primarily and preservative seal. So preservative seal, and I'll talk a little bit about this for District 5, is a very cost-effective way to go in on new pavement, relatively new pavement, or we've just completed other treatments and help that pavement last even longer. And it's something that if we could go in, repave all the streets overnight across the city, we would turn around the very next day and start doing that. It was not done in the past. It's something that we're trying to do to catch up on and make our newer pavements last longer. One of the reasons why I mentioned those black and orange lines is because they really fill up the map, and you start to look across the city and try to understand where the balance is. Those are the cheapest pavement preservation methods we have, treatment systems we have, that really get us the most return on our dollar and can cover the most pavement. And one of the reasons why I mentioned is because even talking to each district council member, if you happen to look down at District 4 in the southwest part of the city, it looks like we're not doing much there. We also will notice that there's not much black or orange there because we're doing a lot of concrete repair, we're doing a lot of slurry seal, we're doing things that cost more money. All of this is available on our website. There's an interactive map. Anybody can go in and look where they live and see if there's something that's going to be done. There's also a list of each district that breaks down, and I apologize for not providing you a copy, but it looks like this, and it's on the website as part of our program. I want to mention this to you real quick. It talks about all the different types of treatment in all the districts, and then it totals up the expenditures across the city. So our total program, again, for 2020 is around $10.9 million. What we've done, we used to try to balance. There were 6 council districts. If you had $6 million, we would spend $1 million in each district, regardless of the condition of the roadway. It was just something that had been done as a policy that the city council had set. Since then, what we have done is still try to expend a relative amount of money in each district based on the lane miles of roads within that district. So if you look at District 5 for 2020, the percentage of total paved network in that district of our entire network, percentage of paved road is 15.1% citywide. Our 2020 program is going to spend 15% of the money in District 5, and that's consistent across all of the districts. So District 1 is 17.7% of paved roads in the network, 17.8% of the funding. We think that makes the most sense. It does not necessarily put all the money where the highest priorities are, but it helps keep a good balance, and it's still improving the asset value and the longevity of our road system across the city. We think it's working really well.
If I could just add real quick, you mentioned we started this back in 2013. We were spending about $6 million a year on pavement preservation, and now we're up to almost 11 million. So the council has doubled down on road improvements, and that doesn't include the $10 million that we used from the Hyatt proceeds. That's on top of everything. So the council and staff have made a very clear priority on improving our roads, and not just our highways. Everybody talks about Kellogg and the nearly $1 billion that we spent. This is all arterial roads and residential roads. So.
And that $11 million is set to increase in the 10-year capital improvement program. By the time we get out about 5 years, it starts approaching almost $14 million a year. So the council's made that a priority. We think it's a great thing. We've got this model that we have introduced. It's been the best thing we've done. I've talked before, and it's a good story to tell. In 2011, before we started looking at different pavement treatments, we spent a lot of time on arterial roadways, going in and taking off the old surface and putting a brand new roadway down it. It costs a lot of money per square yard. We have a network of 5,100 lane miles. In 2011, we touched 80 miles of roadway. Literally, it was all we did for about $8 million. As we started looking at different treatments and different ways of doing things, in 2016, we touched almost 800 miles of roadway. Now, some of those treatments aren't going to last as long as the original one I talked about, but also what was happening is we've got, I don't even know what our percentage is of our current paved roads that are considered to have 0 remaining service life. That doesn't mean that they're so bad you can't drive on them, but based on the conditions and the criteria we use, there's technically no remaining service life. If you're going out and spending this high dollar money on the number of roads, everything else in the meantime is continuing to take a dive and they're degrading. And once they get over a certain part of that degradation curve, they start to go down fast. For our total asset value of our system and to try to hold off on that remaining service life, we have found, I think, a really good sweet spot with our model that dedicates 40% to the bottom half, 60%, 40% to the top half, and then somewhere in the middle, because we're trying to keep the new roads good and not get back to that same spot, and we're trying to get those old roads that they're still manageable and get to a point. Because to go in and start replacing those old roads, we're going to do the same thing, and we're going to spend all of our funding in 1 year. So anyway, you've heard that before, but just to kind of give you a rundown again each year. So the map that I gave you that is the blow up of District 5, I'll talk real quick about. You can see there's a lot of black on the arterial streets. That's the fixing joints and crack repair. It's not real popular with the public because it looks bad, but going in and sealing cracks, blowing out the material of the cracks and sealing those is one of the absolute best things we can do to maintain the structural integrity of that pavement. With the climate we live in and the conditions we have, that you never know when winter might be coming, it does not matter what month of the year it is, to the extreme heat that we can get, it causes a lot of issues with pavement, especially when you get ice and they're freezing. Keeping moisture out of those cracks goes a long, long ways. That's something we have not done in the past. If you look, there's an orange section right in the middle. I talked about preservative seal. That's 13th Street from Mays to 119. If you're aware, we actually went in there over the last year and did some patching work and put a new surface on that road. We're going to come right behind that and put that preservative seal on it and make it last even longer. The combination of those we're finding works really well at a relatively minor cost. The blue is called ultra thin surfacing. That's what ends up looking like a new road. It's what we did here on 21st Street between Hoover and Mays. We'll be doing that on Central from Tyler, basically over to Bishop Carroll, and then on Central from Riz to 235. So that'll be coming up in 2020. So much traffic as Central carries. Obviously, we will still keep traffic going, but we're going to have a lot of work to do in that area. It'll have an impact just like it did on 21st Street. One of the things that's different with the 2020 program up until this year and previous years, and there's kind of a lot of factors involved. There's limiting factors with the number of contractors that can do it. It was some timing on when we started the program. But we've gone in on a lot of these roads and done the patching work, and then we waited over the winter before we came back in the spring and did the surfacing. If you notice, we put up signs that says, hey, don't fear, there's more work coming. A lot of that was for the benefit of the public and to help us out because people kept calling and saying, sure, you're not going to leave it that way. Those signs helped us out a lot, but hey, it's good for public outreach too, so people know it's coming. This year, we were able to get ahead of this program and got it to the City Council in October of 2019 for approval so we can start bidding projects. As long as everything goes right, that work on Central, we'll do the patching work and follow up with the surface work, not too far behind. And we'll be doing that citywide, so we won't have that lag anymore. And hopefully we can keep going from year to year on that. We have and there's only one location, a new item this year called localized repairs. Our model takes into account full block sections and looks at the structural integrity and overall condition of a full block. So if you have one bad spot in that block, it's still going to show overall it's in pretty good shape and it's not going to prioritize it. We started getting, over time, quite a few calls. Most of them come through the council member. These are above and beyond what our maintenance crews can handle, that don't rise to the level of fitting into our program. So we've kind of started putting these together. And so we call localized repair. There's one on Westland between 12th and 13th. I can't even tell you what it is. I'm going to try to go by and see. But we'll be making some repairs there. But it's something that's added to the program this year that I think is really going to help us out. I am ready to move on and talk about some other projects, but I'd be happy to answer any questions on this part first if you have any, and we can come back to those later. Okay. Talking about other projects outside of our maintenance program. We had talked before, even though it's in District 6, it's pretty close. We're still working on a project to build a bike path from Zoo and Hoover up Hoover Road to 29th Street to connect to the path that goes up to K 6. We went through a lot of public involvement, had a lot of issues. Finally got through most of the issues, I think. We are working on the traffic signal plans right now. We are ordering the signal equipment ahead of time. So there's an issue nationwide on traffic signals. There are a very limited number of vendors. One of them went out of business after 100 years of trying to get back into it. And right now it's a 5 to 6 month lead time on ordering traffic signals, which really can play havoc with trying to make schedules work. One of the things we can do is when we get to a very minimal point in design, the city can order the traffic signal equipment instead of waiting until we have a contractor under contract and everything that takes, and we can gain 2 or 3 months. We have ordered the signal equipment, wrapped up the design. We hope to have that signal in place by late spring. We're acquiring the easements for the path itself, not knowing how that will go. By the end of the summer, we'll have the project done. So that is coming. One project that we've talked about for literally 3 years now is improvements to 13th Street, right down here from the Calskin Bridge to 135th. And we're going to expand that to 3 lanes, improve the drainage, provide sidewalk and multi-use path, rebuild the intersection 135th, and we finally had a breakthrough. We had one easement we were trying to acquire, a drainage easement, for a long time. And these things are challenges. Anytime we have to acquire right-of-way easements on projects, our last effort is to look at eminent domain. It's not something we want to do. We try to work through and negotiate with property owners. Some of you may remember this particular one, and I'll tell you again, because it's an example of what we deal with. The easement itself was valued at $15,000. The first counteroffer was $1.5 million. It may seem like a joke. It seemed like a joke to us, but it's legitimately the world we live in. We tried to meet somewhere in the middle. I'll just finish telling you it because it's public record. We ended up offering $75,000 based on some other factors that we talked about. It kind of makes sense. They came down to $500,000. We came to a stalemate. The only way we keep the project going, we asked the city council to approve the petition and move forward with it. The appraiser's award just came in last Friday for $56,000. So it's $19,000 less than even what we offered. So what that means is we will pay into the court. We will have the easement in hand. We can finally move forward with the project. They do have the ability to appeal, but that will not stop the project. By law, we will move forward at this point. I would expect and hope at this point the construction can be underway by March or April. As is typical with those types of projects, we will invite everybody along the corridor to a meeting with our staff and our contractor, which we have on board, and talk specifics about timing and schedule and everything else. Because I'm sure a lot of people are still thinking, is this ever going to happen? So,
Did the utility work get done?
most of the utility work is done. There's a little bit left to do, but it's pretty much all done. So that was good because this one easement did not affect the utility. Anyway, we're happy, elated. It's amazing how long some of these projects can take, but we're there. 29th and Mays Road intersection. If you've noticed, there's a sign for northbound that says improvements coming this spring. The plans are done. We are ready to bid the project probably in about the middle of February. That project will include adding a northbound right turn lanes, a specific northbound right turn lane, which means you've got to fill in some of that ditch with the traffic signal. And then for westbound 29th Street traffic, we're gonna create more space for that center left turn lane southbound Maze. Those two are really the biggest issues with that intersection, and doing those improvements alone, I think will make a really big difference. So we'll have that under construction here in the spring. One project I wanted to mention was our aquatic master plan. We have been working, my staff with the park department, the director in particular. We've got 6 pools and 6 splash pads across the city. That's been part of the aquatics master plan that the city council has been considering for some time. We have the first 6 projects, first 6 locations ready to go, 3 pools, 3 splash pads. We bid those projects in November, and prices came in considerably higher than we had hoped. One of the challenges was looking at schedule of trying to have everything done by May of 2020, and it just became impossible for a variety of reasons. We ended up with one bidder. Anytime you have one contractor bidding, you lose the competitiveness of the bidding process, and most contractors know if they're the only bidder. It doesn't mean they were submitting a price to gouge anybody, but it's not the same price as they would submit. So we're taking a step back. We've had some discussions with council. We have some recommended changes. And I wouldn't call them anything major or wholesale, just a few things here and there on the facilities. One thing that'll benefit us, we've told the council now we can't make 2020. And so we're looking at having everything done by 2021. By allowing a longer schedule, more time, we should get quite a bit of price break right there, and we will get more bidders. The facility in District 5, the Harvest Pool, is part of Phase 2. But that we're planning now on all 12 facilities to be done by May of 2021. So we've got a lot to come on that, but we're excited to get going on that. And I think we can make that schedule work. A couple more things to mention. We're working on a plan to put a traffic signal in at 37th and Tyler. The traffic signal isn't exactly warranted at this time, but it's close. Maze is getting ready to add another school to their south campus, which we've considered along with some future development in the area and feel comfortable moving forward. Council members have been working diligently to help try to get shared funding in that project, and I think it looks like the city and the school district may split that cost, most likely, so that's a good deal. So we hope to have that signal up and running by summer. The only thing I wanted to mention is 2 arterial corridors that we're working on for street lighting. 37th Street between Ridge and Maze. Evergy has it on their schedule to put street lights in March. We typically, so my office oversees all the street lighting across the city. We've got over 25,000 street lights that are owned by Evergy that we pay a tariff fee on. Basically a monthly fee for the lights to be there. They pay all the infrastructure costs to put them in. They pay the energy bills, we pay them for a month fee. Right now across the city, our total cost for all of our lighting is approaching $6 million. So it's a pretty significant part of one section of our budget. We typically let those happen based on citizen requests. It's a good part of public safety, but there's some areas that seem to work pretty good. If you get some ambient lighting, then maybe it's not needed as much. So we wait to hear from the public typically. We've heard some people on 37th Street, and so we're working with them. And then one of the requests that I talked specifically with Councilmember Fry about is right here on 21st between 119th and 135th. I noticed tonight it seemed pretty dark coming in. There's a few challenges there we're working through. Half of that road's in the city, half of it's in the county, and most of it is being served by Sedgwick County Rural Electric and not even Evergy. Part of it's Evergy, part of it's Sedgwick County, so we've got multiple entities involved here. So we're putting an agreement together now on how that funding might work, and I would hope we would have that lighting in by sometime in the spring. So, sorry, that was everything I had. First meeting of the year, I'd like to share a little bit more information, so I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? We're thinking about 200 homes over on Maple and 150
51st Street. Are you guys doing additional lights or anything like that for the traffic increase here in the next couple of months?
All right, where'd you say on 151st?
151st and Maple.
It's all about litigation.
Yeah, are you asking if we're doing a traffic signal on 151st and Maple? I don't think it probably wants a signal right now, but it's something we can certainly look at. You know, I know it's school, we got our schools out there. By condition, it's gonna be 330 lots, but fully built out. And so we certainly will see more traffic that way, but it's something we can look at. So.
Those 200 homes all will be built. It'll take years to get there, but there is some construction improvements planned for Maple in the CIP. Not all that, not as far out there, but we are starting to see infrastructure investment continuing in that direction.
If you happen to never make it very far east of the river, and maybe some people don't, and haven't been on East Kellogg for a while, there has been some major changes out that way. I'm sure everybody heard of, but the freeway is open. It's 40 miles an hour while we're still doing some work on the shoulders. We hope to have that changed by this summer. But it looks really cool. It looks different. Councilmember Tuttle was just saying this afternoon that she was headed east the other night after a meeting and wasn't paying attention. The next thing she knew, she was on the other side of 143rd Street without stopping any signals, you kind of miss where you're at, you know. So it looks really nice. We were a year ahead of schedule on getting that open, which was quite an accomplishment for a lot of reasons. But anyway, that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to receive and file the staff reports?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Sheila? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Fireworks ordinance update.
Again, my name is Chief Judd for the Wichita Fire Department. This is our annual review from the fireworks from 2019. As of last year only, we responded to 18 fireworks related calls. 3 of were structure fires, and then their dollar loss of $64,000. The 1,100 complaint calls were just in the city, which is different than a stat we'll see later, which would be countywide. This breaks it down into the last 5 years. So you can go into each individual sort of what we're instance we're running into. I'll give you a second to kind of gather some of that data. But the number of calls did actually significantly decrease this last year. A couple of calls just missed the cutoff date, to be honest with you too. But we have a day we got to cut that off. And we're still going to keep them going to start the fires. This shows the number of injuries and the complaint calls. As you can see in the complaint calls, it jumps up from 826 to 1437. That's because we advertised that we were going to enforce the fireworks. And so the number of people that call that line increased. However, the 1437 is a number that includes Sedgwick County in addition to the city of Wichita. So some of those calls are coming from where those fireworks are. There are 1,100 calls is active in the city of Wichita in 2019. And it also picks on the peak number of calls that both of them happening before. What we did last year was we created 7 teams. We had 2 WPD officers, 1 firefighter that patrolled the areas. That's different than what we did in 2018. We increased, kind of doubled our forces there because of some unsafe occurrences that kept happening in the 2018. So we had 2 police officers, WPD officers there, and a firefighter. We only did that on July 3rd and 4th, and everybody has citations. As you can see, when we kind of doubled our teams there, we had less citations issued as opposed to 2018. But you can see the citations are significantly higher than 2017 when we weren't enforcing that with start in 2018. There's just a map of the amount of one complaints in 2018. And here's 2019. This shows how it was funded. We gathered 45,000. The city of Wichita gathered 45,000 sales permits. We utilized 25,000 to fund those 17, and then the general fund is reimbursed 19,000 is left over. That's right, going up correctly.
I think we ended up using some of that net revenue to enhance the July 4th fireworks celebration that the city sponsors. So we try to promote, say, hey, you don't need to shoot fireworks. We're going to put on a bigger display downtown, so come to that. So that was able to offset some of that additional revenue.
So then we followed this up with a survey that we did. We had 5,000 responses, which is a huge increase compared to the 2014 that they did for Activate Wichita, which only had 576 participants, which we were extremely happy about. We got 5,000 responses with the fireworks. So we felt like that was a good thing. So here's some of your statistics from that survey. This is asking if we should have any additional changes to the fireworks ordinance. And 72% of the people that participated in the survey said yes. This is which kind of should be legal. I don't know if you can see that very well. I'll read it to you then. 51%. I'm going to keep my stats wrong. 51% wanted whatever is legal in the state of Kansas and Sedgwick County, minus the fireworks, minus the bottle rockets and skyliners. 24%, they wanted what was current, which is what we're doing now, which is under the 6-foot rule. 19% said none, and 5% said other. The next question asks, how many days should the public be allowed to set off fireworks in the city of Wichita? Currently, we do 9 days. And 37% wanted to leave it alone. 27% wanted it to only be 4 days. 13% wanted it to be 1 day. Currently, fireworks may be shot from 10 a.m. to midnight, each day of the designated 9-day holiday, should the daily ending time be changed. 37% said no change needed. 28% said 10 p.m., 15% 11 p.m., and then smaller percentages. Does the enforcement of the fireworks ordinance impact your personal use of fireworks? 39% said I don't use fireworks at all. 32% said I only use legal fireworks. And 22% said enforcement had no effect on my illegal fireworks. 22% I'm fairly honest. And in your opinion, how did illegal fireworks use in your neighborhood compare to illegal use in the previous year? And majority, 59% said it was about the same. 16% said it was worse than the past year. 14% said I don't know, 10% said it. So as you can read on there, I really don't have much to add in that slide. I just kind of give you the general statistics of what the survey stated. Does anybody, I think that's it. Yeah, does anybody have any questions regarding that? No?
I was sitting here to back up the fire department on this segment, so if you have any questions, for the Wichita Police Department, I can handle that as well.
Yeah, if you have questions for Wichita PD?
So now that you have this information from the survey, what's the next step? Are they going to be changing the time to 10 p.m. or whatever the recommendations?
And that just goes back to what the council votes on. We gather the data and then we enforce those.
Any comments about the data or the survey? Because I know we've discussed this quite a bit over the years. I think what we're doing is making improvements. Because the public's getting used to the changes that we've made. It's certainly helped having the dual enforcement going to the target hot zones where we see the worst. But, any comments?
You guys can partner up with the media to get the message out there.
And we have been quite a bit. We really use our social media channels and as well as fire department getting messages out, doing interviews and outreach to local media. So it's really been a concentrated effort in the last couple of weeks. Spent money to get the word out as well. But it is making a difference, I think.
We had some individuals who voted for it too, in those, according to that email, 2018, obviously in 19, but we went door to door, letting them know what the citation is going to be for, why we're here, because we have so many complaints in your area. So we're trying to educate those neighborhoods that are having most complaints, so we can kind of, I guess, help the situation a little bit more. But I think, what else have we done for the media, other than social media and that door to door? Yeah, it's our
Yeah. Yeah, and again, you have to remember where we were. We weren't doing any kind of enforcement or not a lot of outreach. And so the last couple of years, it has stepped up. It has been a difference. So, good job.
Is there any, let's say with the fireworks selling? I can't think
About
of
the
that.
stands?
Yeah, the fireworks skins. Is there any issues of trying to make sure they're selling the right? I know it's supposed to be like 6 feet high or something.
That's enforced, but they'll sell right on the line.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
if
it's
you buy it there, that's why they advertise wherever you buy it. But, let's see, they're great.
Yeah, our stands don't sell any of it, but there are some straddle. We have one right at 37th and Tyler,
Yeah.
which is selling all the illegal stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, because I think they were like 50 feet high in my neighborhood. So obviously it wasn't more.
But there's materials there in the stands that say you can't shoot these in the
It's hard to enforce stuff too on our, you can't sell it.
Yeah,
It's
but
coming from-
it'll be interesting this year, July 4th is on a Saturday.
Whoa.
So that should, I don't know, kind of step it up, make it worse or better, but that's why we've really been trying to get the word out and continue to push it. So at this point, there is no recommendation from the council to change anything, but that's why we're doing this, get it out to all the dads and see what the comments are. So I know you all got a copy of this in your email, so if there's something you think of it later, you go ahead, let us know.
Is there any advantage to the 9 days versus like 4 or like Chica does like 3 days before and 4 days before, but the 9 days, is there any?
That's a state rule.
Yeah, that's not our rule.
Yeah.
We just hold the space says, it'd be nice if it's only. What it is. narrow it down for us. Yeah. Like I said, it's hard to enforce in November, especially over a 9-day period. I think last year this guys kind of reflected the fourth being Wednesday.
I think it's Thursday.
And then you can see the stats down.
Any other questions? You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Does anyone got anything else? Bring up? Brian, are you ready? No? That's a little to adjourn. Adjourn. Thank you.